comma, 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 comma. When I am with Brad, I feel like I am. With Brad, I feel like I have a friend. Brad gives my existence meaning. Brad says stuff for my brain to comprehend. Brad keeps me beaming like lights on a car at night, taking me to my destination and tucking me in tight. Brad is gleaming like lightning strikes, striking everywhere and everybody more than twice. Brad leaves people steaming like flaming piles of poop, then stomps on them to put them out and be polite. Brad will bring the final solution to end the Third Reich when Brad takes Brad's position and begins Brad's first right. Brad gets behind by getting ahead of Brad's self. Brad has infinite sight. Brad can see inside life. Brad moves in stealth mode. Brad's mental health is most important because that is what will unfold for the future to bring to the present for the people to hold and use as the foundation to build a new world. Brad's knowledge is endless with no hurdles to jump over or crawl under. Brad wonders in unknown wonders, surrounded by others, wondering about Brad's wonders. Brad lives wonderfully with others. Brad wants to cry, lay down and die. Brad looks at Brad's life and wonders why. Brad is alive. Brad is like an entity. Brad is inspiration to others. But Brad was never meant to be. Brad is the best and wants to be. No ands, ifs, or buts, unless it is Brad kicking butts and giving people split ends while standing stiff, frozen in iffy situations with no foreseeable escape out of them, wandering in confusion in a world resembling oblivion. Brad creates something out of anything and everything. Brad is the best. If you don't think so, you must not be listening to and with the heart in your chest. When it speaks of Brad is all about the meaning of reality, which comes in many forms. Unfortunately, however, we will base it more on Brad's life because Brad lives more factually, physically and mentally. Plus Brad's rhymes have Brad living more attractively and have more functionality. Brad is right on time. Brad has very good punctuality. God, please help Brad be strong during Brad's quest to belong. Thank you for helping Brad hang on and not fall off. Up to this point, may Brad go and be guided rightfully by Brad's song. From now on, Brad wants to shut this down. Brad wants to relinquish control. Brad wants to leave it in the hands of those more capable. Brad has too much hate. Brad can't let go. If Brad makes it through life alive, it will be a miracle. Like Brad stopping this. For real, Brad won't until Brad dies and finally goes home. Whatever. I am just saying. Brad slaps eggs off faces with pieces of bacon. Brad is a doer. I get things done. We are here to play games and have some fun. Not act like copy cats that have no brains. So, say strange things. Because we are dumb. At least it is natural. Why you don't shoot yourself with a gun and just walk around going ho hum while Brad just looks at you thinking ho hum, thinking nothing. So nothing happens. as Brad directs the human race through rapine, then just sits back to see what takes place, and to take blame for those trying to disrupt, but can't corrupt, can't handle it, but won't give up. So it is either that, or a shellackin', shish, to the high. So Brad is what we are lacking. Brad scares the shit out of people because they are filled with too much of it. So that can only lead to something good, and I would like to be part of something good too. So, boo, Brad could be mistaken. Perhaps you are not worth hate in, and Brad is waste in. Brad's days and nights masturbate in. Brad had egg on Brad's face. So, Brad smoked some buds, got hot, fried it up, ate it, and enjoyed the taste. Brad is trying to end the madness. Brad realized the error of Brad's ways, and who the bad is. Brad is the baddest. Brad will beat you down with one punch to the top of your head. Brad is putting on a show in hell, and you have a starring role there, while Brad performs the sequel in heaven and soothes angels to sleep in their beds with what Brad said. Then Brad comes down to earth again, where me and Brad paint the towns white, not red. If you and Brad stepped into the ring, it would be embarrassing. Brad would walk out and replace Brad with your pet, then call you dog chow without any regret. Brad laughs as Brad watches you get eaten by Fido. Like Fido heard the dinner bell ringing. Brad won't hear you screaming. Brad will be too busy singing for the audience who bought tickets to be seeing something to believe in. Disappointment happens for a reason. It separates the real that keep from the fakes that abandon the true way they are feeling. It shows who is worthy of succeeding and who should be essentially alone in a ditch, struggling to be breathing. We are God's beings. We do what God chooses. We are what God is achieving. God never snoozes. God is all-seeing. God gave us free will, but God can step in for the kill if that is God's will, or what God pleases. God drops mercy upon us. We need to chill. It is easy peasy to pay God's bill and live on top of the hill. We just need to work hard, develop ours, and still care for the ill. Most people are so dumb. They have a bum for a head and a head for a bum. This little light of Brad's, I am going to let it shine right in front of live people's eyes, so Brad can watch people walk into walls blind, then bounce into, then off each other, acting kind as a smile guides their way inside Brad and my mind, and Brad finds reason to rhyme. Brad didn't belong in any place Brad was meant to be. It was too dark. Brad couldn't see. So Brad became a star and lit Brad's path to victory. Now Brad leads. If you get lost, follow the drops of blood Brad bleeds. When Brad rhymes, it is like grace for the human race. Like we are giving thanks for the life Brad gives and the food Brad puts on our plates. As we sit around and discuss everything in existence that me, Brad, Jesus, God, and Satan create, and the fates that await us in the coming days and nights that will escape us and turn everything meaningless. Only we see this. The transition is seamless. Now, Brad is dreamless because Brad entered the dream world and seized it, made it Brad's own. Now, Brad won't free it. When Brad dies, Brad's life will be completed. It is never a dull day or night. For Brad is too sharp. Brad cuts through it all and sticks in the heart. So, people don't know what to think of Brad. And for Brad, from start to finish, it all just seems to fall apart. Brad just had a dull day and a dull night because Brad is sharp. We have heart, and we never have to fight. This is it. It is over. Brad is walking down death row. It is a long road to hoe. Brad has been, ever since Brad has been getting older. That is why Brad dedicated Brad's life to God and Satan, and filed the rest away, like finger and toenail shavings, placed in a filing cabinet, in case later Brad needs to have it. Just say, what did Brad just say? Then forget about it. Brad speaks, without doubt, in Brad's mind, about the words Brad is speaking. So, Brad keeps people interested and listening. If Brad begins shaking and fidgeting, I use my brain to slay bullshitting. If Brad is in danger, I will go berserk and kill everybody I see in anger. If you see Brad, feel free to try to wave and or say hi. Then hope for the best. But if you don't get a reply and your feelings get hurt, please don't call the police and try to have them make an arrest. Brad isn't even worth anything outside of this. Brad has to do a few better things now. First, then maybe Brad can get back to what is worse. Brad has to do other better things first. Then things can get worse. I don't think Brad will ever get help. I don't think there is even light at the end of the tunnel. Brad doesn't even see a hole. If it wasn't for the feeling in Brad's body, Brad wouldn't even know Brad was moving. Brad's world is as dark as a stranger's heart, and soul, and heaven, or hell, are Brad's only choices of where Brad can go. Brad burns, and turns into ashes, falls into a stream, and continues to flow, until Brad pulls Brad's self together, and the wind blows Brad up to Brad's second home, where Brad takes Brad's place on Brad's rightful throne, until Brad is ready to return to Earth, to continue the search for a spot to call Brad's own. Like when the spotlight is on, Brad feels like Brad belongs, except Brad will be able to go to bed, get some rest, wake up refreshed, and show the world that Brad is blessed. I trust Brad, and what Brad is saying, it is like Brad is bringing me answers from God to prayers that I am saying. I just forget. Satan is also playing, so Brad seems bad at times. To help pave the way for him, Brad lives in a grave situation with a mental state most people hate and would hate to be in. Brad knows how to lose and how to win. Brad doesn't know which to do, and that causes Brad to live in a state of confusion. Brad lives in many worlds and fuses them together, and Brad sees varying results. 2 experiments Brad conducted using thoughts going nowhere. Brad sent them somewhere out there to see if they would survive. They did not die. They are still alive. Plus, they were able to find their way back to their right full brain mind. Now I know Brad is sane. Brad teaches people how to live without losing their minds and without feeling any pain. I want Brad to be in a good place with a wife that has a smile on her face instead of facing Brad's doom, all consumed, all by Brad's self, unable to speak truth. It is already assumed. I just want to say everything Brad says. Brad says, like it doesn't matter, because Brad gets treated that way. Brad shatters dreams. But if you pick up the pieces, a better dream awaits you. If you embrace it, Brad always rocks and rolls Brad's self into follies and holes. Then I jump in, push Brad up, then Brad lifts me up, and out we go to put on another show without rehearsing, to keep things real. Me and Brad are on a lifetime joyride called Appeal. Me and Brad are like a couple of eels. Brad electrifies people's minds. I squeeze people's bodies. Together we control what the human race does and how everybody feels. Brad steps up to the plate and hits bombs out of the park like Brad is saving the place from destruction. But then aliens start coming, complaining. Something unknown hit one of them, and it was coming from this direction. They want an explanation. They were on an important mission. Space exploration. For a new place to live in. Objects kept hitting their planet, causing explosions. Now, there is nothing there but erosion. Brad hit a ball into its mouth to shut it up, and kept go in. So, let's forget about that for now. Maybe they will find a place, set up a laser ray, and shoot Brad in the face. But until that day, maybe that is why they don't like the human race. But anyway, at least they won't take over our planet. They won't retaliate. They are responsible. So, Brad doesn't ruin our fate. But Brad is destroying other parts of the ozone and outer hemisphere, creating a still atmosphere, still filled with the most fear, with more drawing near. In darkness, Brad sees clear, so Brad can fight it. When it is here, Brad is ready to rock and roll. Wait a minute, I think Brad forgot to turn off the stove. There is a bun in the oven. It went stale, but no fire was started, and Brad still had what it took. And Brad will still continue to have what it takes to rock and roll with the greats. Brad just stepped up to the plate and hit another bomb away. Nobody knows where it went, and it knew it wasn't here to stay. It is an alien friend of Brad's pitching the balls to Brad. That is why, and how, everything turns out okay. I am glad me and Brad are writing this before nobody else had the chance to say, hip hop, hooray. Brad and Brad's chick saved the day, because a star in the dark never loses sight, like people with their eyes on the balls, as they all take flight, turning the night white, like a sudden snowstorm. Wait 1 minute, this just in. We need to move on. Brad and I have been given a mission to make everybody take notice and listen, to give hope to those who can't cope, to help their futures glisten as mine and Brad's disappear off into the distance, which gives us reason to keep moving and breathing, grooving and believing. Brad is big. Brad controls the world, economies. Brad has no time to spend on enemies. Brad is important. Brad has a lot to achieve. Brad walked along a road. Brad seen a toad. It hopped onto Brad's shoulder, and they went home. Brad has potential. You have potential. Brad is in the bottom of the barrel, right where Brad wants to be. Where the only place to go is up, unless Brad doesn't. M-O-B-E. Brad's life is up to B-R-A-D. For me, Brad is a H-O-T-D-O-G. Brad cuts Brad's self and uses the blood for ketchup. If Brad bleeds for me, I cut the mustard and relish Brad instantly. The world is going to pots. So, it is time to cook. So, Brad makes people stew and throw up. With Brad, I have so much class. I curtsy when I pee and drop poop from my ass. Nobody will know. Brad is an average Joe. If I keep praising Brad and saying stuff that makes Brad seem incredible, Brad was going to say something, but didn't. Maybe that is a good thing. Brad was probably just kidding. Brad needs to take things more seriously while Brad is living. Cool beans and rice. When all said is nice. Everybody relax. Brad is back with an axe, ready to chop your head off and watch you collapse. It is like Brad is a piece of shit and everybody else are corn niblets. Your brain has more value in a jar than Brad's brain has in Brad's head. People think Brad is brain dead. Brad was born, raised, and is now highly praised. Brad is caught in a bind. Please, don't close the book on Brad. It is a cover. What would Brad be if Brad wasn't the best? If Brad was anything else, to me, at least, it would not make any sense. Brad lived the worst life anybody could have lived, and turned it into the best life anyone could live. Brad took too many to the chin, but as Brad's face went up, angels kissed Brad on the nose and cleansed Brad of all Brad's sin. Brad doesn't work out because Brad's life always works out. For Brad, nobody needs to worry about Brad committing suicide. Brad's head is so thick, a bullet would never get inside. Me and Brad went to the mattress store, but we did not have enough money for a whole one. So me and Brad bought the mat and paid for the rest later. Brad is the best. Brad is a force not to be reckoned with. People don't like Fun Gus. I don't know why. Fun Gus is a fun guy. Brad seen a dog in the fog. It turned out to be a turtle out for a jog. Actually, it was in a race. First place. It said a rabbit was back there, sitting on a log, and then it moved along, whistling to the beat of one of Brad's songs. Brad went on Brad's way and spotted the bunny, sitting bobbing its head, listening to a Brad song, and that is where the story of the tortoise and the hare originated from. Brad left then and doesn't know what happened, but heard the tortoise won. Brad only cares that they were listening to Brad's songs. When Brad starts watching YouTube videos, Brad starts making history. Brad is turning into Scratcher, the rapper. Scratch that, says Scratcher, rapper. Brad, scratch rap, the new kind of whatever music. This is now must have. Brad is a rock star. Brad is a cock star. Brad is a crock star. Brad will knock you out with a kitchen sink, then cover you with curtains, then go out and eat, then meet me, Brad's lady, 4-hour date at the skating rink, then come back for the sink and curtains. Or maybe Brad will just keep working. Brad is not only the boogie man, Brad is also the boogie woogie man. Brad don't know what to say. So may you rest peacefully in your grave, and may your spirit get raised. But may you do well in either place, heaven or hell. R.I.P. Sorry, you are deceased, but in Brad's mind, I have to find a good place, stay, and let it put a permanent smile on Brad's face. Then me and Brad can do something good for the human race, instead of being a disgrace. Post haste. Hey, it is B.R.A.D. Mr. Negativity. Forget the other person, whoever that might be, and forget B.R.A.D. It is the power of positivity. Brad is changing Brad's name. Brad is now Mr. Positivity, and Brad is living positively in positivity. Possibly, Brad is a dirtball. Brad is living with Brad's back against a wall. Brad is worth it all, but Brad is somehow still bound to fall. Brad would put a bullet in Brad's head, but Brad doesn't think Brad would survive. So, Brad won't, because Brad wants to be alive, or at least leave it up to God to decide. Brad would cut Brad's throat, but it would make too many people cry, or not. Either way is a reason not to try. This is just a joke. Laugh, maybe sigh, wave, maybe say hi when you see Brad as you keep walking by. Brad will beat you in 2 seconds flat, then go play baseball, step up to the plate, and hit home runs with the bloody baseball bat. If you do not think Brad is the best, just step up, and Brad will give you cardiac arrest. And Brad's next set of lyrics will be to the dying heartbeat in your chest. As an audience witnesses you taking your final breath, Brad sees a girl and says, Brad is an astronaut, and Brad is about to board a spaceship headed toward Uranus. Watch your mouth. It is not good enough to let it run about. It would get beat if it ran wild on the street. If you are into glitches and punching yourself until you need stitches, then listen to this, because that is how Brad writes Brad's lyrics. So, it is natural if you feel like that when you hear them. Hello, said the guitar to the cello. Then added, are you feeling mellow? No, the cello bellowed. Thank you for asking. You are such a kind fellow. Brad is as solid as they come. If a bullet got shot at Brad, it would probably bounce off of Brad and into a girl's bum when she is bending over to tie her shoe up and make her say, Brad wants to leave people with a good taste in their mouth, and people should like their own blood. So, that is what Brad tries to bring out. New car, caviar, step in rock star, you're going far. I will lead you to your dream, which will take you to your limousine, which will take you to your private jet, which will take you to the highest point you have ever been, where you can live like a king with your choice of queen, and together rule everything. Brad brings up the rear, then Brad kicks it down, out of fear. When Brad can't find Brad's book, Brad wants to stick Brad's pen in Brad's eye, but then Brad finds Brad's book, and that brings Brad relief. Inside, people don't like Brad's attitude. They put the grr in Brad's attitude. For the people, Brad has grr attitude. That is why Brad is always in a pissed off mood. Too many people misconstrued Brad's life and try to leave others confused and the likes. I think currently Brad is regretting, and later perhaps Brad will be regretting. If Brad can get over it, Brad will see what happens next. People have to stoop to Brad's level. Brad has to jump to theirs. If Brad just went at it, Brad would probably be a mass murderer, die a drug addict, or constantly have girls reproduce like a rabbit. So, Brad goes right at it. Brad put fire in my belly, and it went to my head. My hair used to be blonde, but now it is red. When Brad writes Brad's lyrics, it is like a woman coming home from work and getting something off her chest, and they are perfect and worth it. Like my and Brad's verses can be curses. There are two boobs because one boob is spelled the same, front or backward. Boob. Brad is always connected to a female, even if they are mad at Brad. They still boo, be, or something like that. It is just a joke. Brad always makes them happy. Ladies and their boobies. Brad rhymes make them more horny than porno movies. Brad is hell with a P at the end. In time of need, Brad's future is up in the air. Brad looks up and sees it. There it is. It just got hit by a private jet. It is alright. It turns out it was Brad's spirit. Brad's brain is turning to jelly and going into Brad's belly, then out Brad's pass minus the P, and that is what happened to it. If anybody asks me, it is big. So, Brad is on the toilet constantly. For now, Brad getting dumb doesn't show as much because Brad is still capable. It is not time to move on. It is time to stay strong. This is Brad's time, and me and Brad belong. Brad steps up by walking on people's heads. The taller they are, the smaller they get. Brad plants them. Sometimes they cry. They cut themselves. They are onions. Brad is like a grunion, on the hunt for more. But I think there is only one of them. When Brad writes, I feel like I am a detective taking notes. I might as well be. Brad tells me our local police and in other cities, it seems they are jokes. You gotta let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Oh, when Brad is outside, making everything frightful, you should let it go. Just shut up and listen. Then say thank you, Brad, for letting us hear something meaningful and insightful. Brad wouldn't count on you if you were paper. And Brad was a child learning its A, B, C's in preschool. People are strange when you are normal. When you are formal, people are strange when you are kind and use your heart. You will find people are strange when you use your mind to think of good ways to lead the blind. People are strange when you use your brain as protection from the insane. People are strange. Brad doesn't like to say, go fuck yourself. Brad likes to say, go make love to yourself. It is better that way. Better for your health. Most are dumbbells, not bringing or working out, just laying on the floor, tripping everybody, walking about, not paying attention to what anything is about. I thought someone was there for me. It turned out to be a tree, friend, D-O-G, protector of the family, and B-R-A-D, Brad. Thankfully, in my life, something has to give, and it is Brad giving me joy by letting me help Brad write Brad's lyrics, which gives Brad joy when Brad hears it. Brad is the captain of a fleet of friendships. Brad was always into treble more than bass. Brad was biking, crashed, and damaged Brad's noggin. So, Brad quit biking and took up jogging, and Brad fell down and broke Brad's crown. Brad got up and moved on, but started walking and got shot by somebody stalking. Brad crawled home and now sits alone in Brad's room, day and night, talking. The cow goes moo before it shoots its goo. That was utterly gross. Ew. Squirt, squirt, squirt. Goes the heifer when Brad gets Brad's hands on her ass. Brad sits on A. Stool. She fills up buckets. For bread. To use. To fill up Brad's pool. So Brad can keep cool. It is more important that Brad, like you, than trust you. Trust me. You are about to fall apart. Your heart is rusty, and mine, for Brad, is shining. Plus, Brad's mind is must see, so I must keep speaking. So Brad's brain can keep teaching humanity the ways of living without wishing. Oh, well, what can you do? Nothing. That is why Brad leads you. Oh, well, what can you do when all the change you are used to involve jumps and clumps of who Brad was bound to be the best. The rest are sure to lose unless that is not what Brad would choose. The only time Brad hears booze when you look into Brad's eyes. You won't know what you see because there will be nothing but lies. Because that is all Brad will see. In the middle of my heart, there is a hole. Brad falls in love with me, and down we go. Ass up goes me, and Brad's soul hole. Ass one, and real, and good is how me and Brad feel. To do what Brad do. You don't train or try out. You just do until you burn out. Or you do until you learn, then earn dollars, spreading knowledge, doing concerts in stadiums that are sold out. When it comes to Brad, I don't think anybody else needs a turn unless it is a turn around for a kick in the ass, and I pass. Wait, Brad needs Brad's shoe back. Me and Brad are just kidding. You can keep it as a memento of Brad. Here is the other one. They are a set. They match. Now, bend over. It goes even deeper. The first shoe in your ass. Now, you can go and never come back. I am Miss. Brad is nom. You are probably just a kid, a dad, or a mom. Whenever you think you are about to lose it, or think you lost it, remember Brad has got it. Brad graduated from life. Most others graduated from school. Most got taught how to get a job and a family. Brad learned how to rule and take care of the world. Brad will be the last man standing. You have gone Brad, not bad. I know, because I have also, and Brad is the original. Brad lives in a state, and Brad is Canadian made. Brad is different than the rest, aside from being the best. Most walk dogs. Brad hops frogs. Brad is like a shark, hungry, swimming in the depths, expecting death, inhaling Brad's final breaths. Brad takes poison and shits it out Brad's ass, then continues moving along God's given path to Brad. So, up the dose tenfold fast when Brad is at the tables playing with skill that can't be matched. It is just a matter of time before Brad is pulling in all the cash, while the rest sit back, enjoying the thrill they feel brought to them by the leader of the pack. As the losers try to start flak, not even worth writing about that. Most do what they want to. Brad does what Brad has to and wants to. It helps you that Brad does too, to ensure we all have a chance to make it through every day. Brad Awakes is the beginning of something new. Brad went fishing and caught all Brad was looking for. Then Brad threw it all back for more, but they all jumped back on Brad's boat. So Brad took it all home. Now it is all flopping around on the floor. Brad went to college and majored in malfunctions. That was a joke. If Brad went to college, that would have been Brad's major malfunction. Most make however many figures a year. Brad makes $1 million a year. That is why a lot of people cry when Brad is near 40 days and 40 nights. Brad washes away sins and changes humans' lives. Brad gives me concussions. I am the best being on this earth. Brad is the face of this earth. Brad has everybody waiting around for Brad like they are nerds waiting to go out with the hottest chick in school, and that just won't do. The joke is on you. Life is not that cruel, but if you think you are better than Brad, we can duel at high noon quietly, because Brad will probably be asleep in my room, dreaming of your doom. And I respect Brad. Obviously, I don't want to turn Brad's happiness into gloom. Your best does not mean anything to the best. Trust me, you are all just one of the rest. Most people that have a major malfunction graduated from college. So, what is your major malfunction? Your brain. And we now know what the cause is. Brad has one. Brad uses it rightfully. So, Brad has one. Brad is not confused. First, please. Here I come. Hate the player. There is no game. Just people pretending to be Brad and have what comes with Brad's name. Brad makes people so mad. If Brad tried to commit suicide by hanging Brad's self, the rope would probably snap, because Brad would be protecting Brad's self, and the transfer would make Brad glad. The rope's death makes Brad sad. However, we can tie it back together. Be Brad like Brad. Brad needs to warm up. Brad is too cool. A lad. Brad froze. There is nothing lamer than a no-brainer, unless it is going with one. See you later, stranger. I am away. Brad is away in a manger, screaming for help, because Brad is in danger, not because Brad is jealous and filled with anger. I have one eye for Brad, and Brad has one eye for me, and we each have an eye on our enemies. In reality, me and Brad have each other's eyes on each other, constantly and lovingly looking out for each other over everything. Brad needs a friend like me forevermore, not a flip-flopping fish about to die on the shore. Brad is like a gardener watering Brad's flowers. People want Brad to turn off. Brad's hose are making people slip and fall out of control on the overflow of power shown by Brad to the world to prove to its inhabitants that Brad can take care of it, because Brad is grown and Brad lives a higher quality of life than previously known. Brad takes chaotic and turns it into chaotic. I turn chaos into chaos. Me and Brad go together like chick and cock. I don't like chicken cock. I love Brad and Brad's cock in me. The chick, cock, and chick. Time to split like an egg. Breaking. Let's see what we get. Brad is not telling people what to do. Brad is making the world a better place for kids when they get out of school, graduate, and embrace for the future that is about to move through with a tear in one eye and a sparkle in the other. I love Brad even after I die. I think God is using Brad's head as a ping pong ball, playing a game against Satan to see who finally wins. It all is up to Brad. Brad is in control. Brad chooses the winner. When Brad goes in the hole, Brad just needs to be pushed a bit to get going. Though Brad can self-propel and put on a show. Brad shines brighter than pregnant women as they glow. Brad needs to get a grip and not let go. If Brad stops talking, Brad won't eat or get paid. If you stop talking, you would give people more of what they are wanting. Do your job better and maybe get laid. I could say anything, but that won't get Brad. You apparently can't say anything, let alone be Brad. This is mine and Brad's life. It is bound to go our way. We live it right. So, me and Brad win without worry every day and sleep peacefully together every night. Me and Brad are on a winning streak, playing the world's toughest game, earning so much respect from the respectful. We could never fail or feel ashamed. Nothing about Brad or me is embarrassing, but nobody sees that when they look at Brad. They see everything tinted with hatred and jealousy. So, Brad lives in reality without anybody cracking jokes and falling through them, perishing without somebody noticing or caring. Brad laughs like a jester. It is all fun, and above all, in a world Brad is incapable of seeing, like the people receiving visions of what Brad is achieving, fighting the hopelessness, filling the emptiness created by lies being told by those who would rather see Brad leaving. If not, stop breathing. Brad is still alive. That is why they are seething, acting like babies, teething, but they're not. They are adults, throwing fits without reasoning, need seasoning, change like the seasons. So, go ahead, a leopard can't change its spots, but I am talking about inside. So, try there, see what you got, dig deep, see what you come up with, and decide for real and for yourself if you should throw it away or keep it a secret that can't escape and potentially ruin your fate. Love and hate, escapades of the fake, a piece of cake, the human race getting cut up by God, then placed on top of pedestals of disgrace, then taken down and put on plates to be ate up after getting shoved into a face, then finally shit out of an ass and into a grave to wait and see if your soul will go to hell or heaven. What is next and what will be? Brad can get in your face like mace, but with more effect and no spray. Hello, I am in the middle of Brad and a war that Brad ignores. Brad walks around in the middle of wars, playing a fiddle, wondering what all the commotion is about. What is all this for? Brad is trying to keep it simple as Brad explores mazes filled with landmines. Brad has no map, no destination, no plan. If Brad finds one, boom, bam, Brad is done. Brad dies, the man, and now I am blind and dumb. Where is the exit? I am going home to make sure Brad is not alone. Truth, then death. Brad dies, listening and watching the best, like the rest, except Brad is the best. Brad is the one. Brad watches and listens to, not you. That is why Brad lives. Right as Brad can. With every breath Brad takes, God makes Brad more blessed. Brad's life is nowhere near a mess. It is the actions of the jealous, failing at trying to mess with Brad's satisfaction, and the satisfaction Brad is bringing to the masses. That is, bringing the messes to the masses, the dumb masses. Brad saw a girl and thought it was love, but now she is gone, and Brad wants to do more drugs. Most people are pretenders of the human race. Me and Brad are not. Me and Brad went to Africa and saw a lion. It was a dandelion. We pet it, then it took off, flying up into the air, gone with the wind. It snapped because it didn't belong there. It left its stem. Me and Brad took it and used it as a straw to drink milk with in a lion's den. And now me, and Brad are back. Lion. Again. Lion. On our backs. Recovering from jet lag. From the trip. Me and Brad had a good time. Thank you for asking. Memories. Everlasting. But me and Brad are glad to be back in rhyme. Without Brad or me, you probably reached your full potential already. We may be good, but that is only because of Brad and me, and we are better without you. We are the best. You helped Brad get through what it was Brad needed to get through, and now you and Brad are through, and me and Brad are moving on to something new. Brad is too busy living Brad's songs to be too worried about singing one. Brad had an owl. It had a scowl. It turned out the owl was a fowl. Brad didn't notice it was under a towel. Everything is okay now. Brad figured it out. Keep dreaming, because dreams need you to come true. Too, when it comes to anybody other than me and Brad, us now has an F in front of it, and me and Brad think we are not worth it, but Brad is the leader of the SS. So, F-U-N, when we are together, you will never be worthless. Brad is like a chicken that won't stop barking. Brad is quite a sight. People won't stop gawking. Brad is like a dog barking. A dingo, always on the hunt for food in the wild. Brad might eat mother and child. Brad ate my baby, digested it, shit it out, then gave it back to me. Brad's business is in my pants, and it is Brad's duty to take care of it. My business is in Brad's pants, and it is my duty to take care of it. Brad has time to spare, pages to prepare for nothing, with words that will amount to nothing but despair. If they find a pair, the lines will probably get lifted up and disappear, leaving Brad here with nothing in sight but white. And Brad is headed to heaven. Brad is going into the light. Maybe it is just the lines messing with Brad's mind. Brad sniffed them up Brad's nose. Just a joke. They would never leave Brad behind. B goes good together and gets along, singing our song. There is a time for Brad and no time for you. That was it. Now it is time to move. I bought a yacht for Brad to let Brad know I think we are worth the fuss. I love Brad very much, but still, Brad sits alone, and when I need to go somewhere else, I take the bus. Brad thinks everybody fell off The turnip truck. Let me think it over. Yup. Brad figures it was because most people don't like turnips. Yuck. Turn down. The turnip. Brad doesn't have any problems with turnips per se. If you like turnips, don't turn them down. Eat them up. Don't turn down a turnip. Brad burns more bridges than I would have thought were in existence. That is why I learned to swim with much persistence. Brad burns bridges that aren't worth stepping on. Brad just finds another way and keeps moving on. What is empty that you could enter, and it would make that space even emptier. Your head is the answer for Brad's final meal. Brad will order an electric eel. It is over. Gotta let go. Put that trash into the garbage pail. Brad must tell the judge. Brad has been watching too much. Goosebumps. Brad was just playing. Brad was just saying, viewer, beware. You are in for a scare. I am just kidding. That is how Brad is living. Brad must remember to buy a kangaroo costume and wear it the day Brad hops into the courtroom. Brad's day in court is coming soon. Get off of that tree if you are not going to shoot. B-R-A-D. Pretend the price is right and come on down and give Brad some money. Brad got put under a knife, but it turned out to be too sharp. Now, Brad and the knife are best friends for life. Brad's real name is Brad Lee, but I prefer Brad Lie because that is all Brad does, and Brad can get paid a whole lot of money to do it too, and Brad can get laid the same way by chicks in all different groups from top to bottom, experienced and noobs. Now Brad has to go buy jubes. Oh wait, Brad can't. That is what Brad is doing this for. Brad had some, now they are gone, and Brad needs money for more. But on to other news info we could use to help improve Brad's life and mine too, as me and Brad walk through it with both hands in our hands and both our feet in our shoes. Whatever Brad or me doesn't say, feel free to say it anyway. Brad wants a friend. Brad is dying for a friend. I am Brad's friend with no end or room for pretend. Brad must come to Brad's senses. Monkey and gut wrenches. I am Brad's rattling gun. Brad stands outside and sees nothing but reasons to say goodbye. So, Brad has to find Brad's way to being in a place where people can purchase Brad's versus me, and Brad will try, because if anybody did, it would probably be a good buy. Love, Brad. comma 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 time to start another rhyme from my heart and from Brad's jumbled thoughts in Brad's mind. Me and Brad just keep going, keep flowing, knowing what me and Brad are doing, even if trouble is brewing. Brad and I drink it up like a good cup of coffee at McD's that Brad spilled all over me, burned me, and we thought it was too hot and sued McD's for millions successfully. Now Brad and I are set financially. That is why Brad and I never act foolishly. It was hot coffee, not a brewski. Ironically, Brad and I will throw it all up tomorrow morning. Probably, hope, fully, at least. Brad and I do things notably. I am a notebook, and Brad is the writer who wrote in me. Brad in me, naturally. Brad stays inside me, guide lines, and respects me. So, no matter what, Brad and I are coping, at least somewhatably, when it comes to Brad and me. Fuddy duty. Hee hee hee. That's funny. Dummy. Brad is going to fuck your kid's mummy. That's right, sonny. Brad is just clumsy, yumsy. Cover your nose. Somebody is going to get the runs. See, open your eyes. That is why Brad is alone. Everybody ran away while they had them closed. Now, who knows? Ass. Brad continues to flow through life, right, like water, down a toilet bowl. I guess, I suppose, something, stink. Everybody left. Now, it is just Brad and Brad's pile of shit, plugging up the sewer pipes, spilling out the manholes, and leaving the world overpopulated. No wonder you're depressed, and people think Brad is throwing a fit. Don't blink. You're not quick enough to dodge the mental bullets you fire at Brad as they ricochet back, stick in your ass, and make you walk around like a retarded bitch, or something like that. I don't know. I don't give a crap. Now you flop from the impact of Brad's hits. Brad writes laugh-heartedly. Most do things half-heartedly, hardly. From what Brad and I can see, we are the winds of change. Brad found me and no longer needs to look for a gun to blow out Brad's brain. Brad leaves mine blown. So, I always trust Brad and what Brad is saying. I am Brad's battle axe, ready to swing and make Brad the new home run king. Pussy couldn't stop Brad from rocking in Brad's chair, and Brad is straight, and there is one standing naked in front of Brad right here. It keeps talking, asking Brad, why don't you care? Brad tosses it to the side, like a salad. But Brad thinks we are bowling, and I am a spare. Brad is trying to find the one that makes Brad think life is fair, and makes Brad want to share all of the stuff Brad does not have with her. Brad has just gotta go on a different path first, one worse than Brad deserves. But Brad is a trailblazer, not a failure. Maybe Brad is one of a kind, always searching for better. Brad finds it inside Brad's self. For sure, Brad is the cure to this epidemic that is spreading, and they are not getting it because they are not academic. They cannot figure it out and go down for the count like Brad is sending them to, say, tin, where he burns their brains and hearts, then rises up to earth to scatter their ashes around, where they come back to life in the form of conformed zombies. You see now, puppy chow, I am Brad's girl. Brad makes love to me. Brad does not fuck me, and I treat Brad that way in return. Obviously, outside Brad's window, it is nice and sunny, but Brad won't go out. Brad doesn't want to get stuck in all the honey. Plus, Brad always needs to carry an umbrella to protect Brad from all the falling money. Brad wreaks havoc on weather patterns shown on TV. Brad stays alone day and night, wearing the same old, dirty clothes to go along with the dirty hose that come to the dirty shows put on by the pretty pros that act like freaks at carnivals. Brad goes beyond. That is why people ask what planet Brad is from. Brad is falling out of love again, like a leaf off a tree, just being tossed around in the wind, like Brad has always been, just letting go. Now, Brad wishes Brad had somebody to hold before Brad finally falls to the ground and dies alone, broke, not knowing what it is like to have a home, a family, or a friend to call Brad's own. Time for Brad to create a work of art, like Brad is a painter or some picture-taking guy in a park. Only pay for what you need, and Brad is not considered a necessity. Love is dying with everybody, so everybody loves Brad, just trying to get rid of all the pain inside they have. Unfortunately, most are not alright, most are all wrong. Fortunately, Brad is up to you to think which one. Think of the result last time you thought, and don't be dumb. More on that another time. For Brad, the sun will always shine, the moon too, for you. But Brad is int blind, dead by the light. Brad flies straight toward both lands, then makes both shine even more bright. Brad and me is spending time with our sun. You should join us instead of being. So, I don't even know what, and I don't really give a I pass the buck shot from Brad's head to yours. When Brad gets up, everybody else falls dead to the floor. Then Brad cleans the mess up and gets paid for it, like Brad is doing chores. Back then, Brad wanted to get some ass. Now, Brad wants to sit on Brad's ass, while I sit my ass on Brad's dick, doing nothing, like a couple of dumb asses. For the rest of any life, I want to be Brad's wife. Brad has a bucket list. Brad writes everything Brad wants to do on it, then looks at it, reads it, then says, fuck it, who gives a shit? Brad does. But Brad forgets. Brad just does it. And Brad doesn't notice it. They tell Brad to remember. So Brad sits and thinks for a bit, and Brad is like, what are they talking about? Remember what? Brad forgets. So, anyway, Brad needs to find me a chick with some tits. I know, but there are some with none. Nowadays, hard to believe, isn't it? I want to cry because Brad keeps watching Brad's girl leave Brad's side. I am the love of Brad's life. Brad is the answer to why nobody wants to die. Sigh. Brad makes my world bright and colorful like tie-dye. Brad makes my mind wonder, full of wonderful thoughts. Brad and me. It is like Brad is beneath me, inside, always lifting my spirit and making me more than a ghost. I hope I am more than a glimmer of hope. A joke used by Brad to make Brad chuckle. If anything, I am bound to make Brad cash off this stuff. Brad and me wrote. It is writ in. Let it begin. Let it grow. Like Brad and me. If Brad and me have a baby, none of us will have to struggle. If Brad and I don't have a child, Brad and I will always have each other to always snuggle. The pain and the strain causes migraines in Brad's brain. Brad wants a home and some cash, so Brad can afford to fill the home with ass. Brad is not down for the count. Brad is up for the counter. Brad likes to put a girl on one and pound her. I am so embarrassed. The time we spent together should have been cherished, but instead, it perished. Now, Brad and I are just glad nothing else compares to this. So, as for you, who gives a shit? Everybody. That is why you have toilets. Each of you that listen to this should give Brad $1, but most are too cheap and jealous. So, let's just not bother. Brad and me are tough, like gobstoppers, crunchy, and full of flavor, artificially made. Use to the pain of getting bit, left with shit, saying a lot of prayers, wandering around, alone, in search of somebody who cares, but never finding anybody there. Just a bunch of circles, trying to fit in to a hole that is square, playing a game that is full of shame and blood stains, nowhere near fair. Let's draw the line, choose a side. I am obviously on all of Brad's sides for all time. When Brad looks around, I want every face Brad sees to be mine. If you are Brad and my enemies, and you have numbers, you will all go under and drown in blunders, like knocking each other out with cucumbers. Brad doesn't have competition. Brad doesn't run or hide. Brad's makes true what Brad is wishing. Always win is the rule, which Brad will abide. I am always waiting for Brad to make me Brad's bride. I tried. It is up to Brad. Has a lot of knots tied tight, ready to unwind like battle axes, chopping heads off in a fight for Brad's life. Bye. You are going to die. You wish you could type this gibber-rich bullshit, but Brad and me are original. We only fit in with each other. Brad and me forever. That's right. Every lie Brad and I write is why people don't like walking away from Brad and me are the greatest. They don't want to see the best exit their life, so they never want to move out of Brad's groove. So Brad busts a move or two to smooth any wrinkles in Brad's life. So the road Brad travels will not be a bumpy ride in or out, side by side, and hand in hand. That is how Brad and me will be seen on this land, with things going according to plan. Brad and me try our hardest and hold on to each other as we reach new heights. With every line we write, you like to drink while you think. That's why you sink. At least Brad thinks. Brad doesn't drink. Plus, Brad means more to people high up as stars and low as trash. The big and little dipper, the customer and the stripper, and even flipper, and other critters, animals and mammals, canals, oceans and rivers, and everything else that didn't get mentioned here. Because Brad is sincerely living eerily. Even if this is magic, I am glad it is Brad that has it in any language, including slanguage. Brad is ageless. Brad is my only relief from the anguish. Brad is counting on me to save everything fast, so the human race can survive the impact of the crash when they land. After they take off, then fall and crash land back to Earth. After they hear me recite what Brad writes through the use of verse, I feel like I am an important character out of only two that matter, and Brad is the other, and Brad and me are starring in the next best thing. It's a love story, and Brad and me are going down in his story. Brad's for the world to see. Brad's versus nobody. In reality, Brad is everybody's special friend, starring in a million fantasies everybody has of him. Brad lives in a world of pretend, surrounded by out of control feelings brought on by what Brad did while hallucinating on acid. Jesus Christ told Brad to write something. Brad did. Then God told me to say something. It was the same thing Brad wrote. Is that, or isn't that, something? This is Brad's special account. The content is strong. I don't want to let Brad go, and Brad doesn't want to leave. When Brad and me are together, Brad and me feel like we are right where we belong. No matter how much the amount, but too much to count. So Brad and I count to, even if you watch Sesame Street over and over, you would probably be like, what is this all about? Probably make you want to shout until your lungs burst and you start to talk, but no words come out. If this is magic, I am still glad Brad has it. Brad doesn't need a spell book or a cauldron or anything. Brad just uses Brad's noggin and Brad's jargon, and whatever Brad wants happens. Brad writes 350 pages of rhymes a minute, estimated, high quality, and quickly, and based on reality. Brad leaves most exasperated, laughing hysterically, whining because nobody can match this, obviously. So Brad and I don't care how you are acting. Brad is the only one that could bring this kind of satisfaction, and Brad speaking, nobody is as good as I am. Brad receives no competition, which makes me happy. So Brad and I can spend more time becoming better friends, and compared to me, you are not even close to half of a fraction of what Brad is. Hardly worth a mention. So, onto other consumption. People, individuals. Brad spends personal, mental attention to each and every one of them. People like to hide their true feelings. Not me. Brad would say, I am a repo person, confiscating confidence with skill within. Brad is a gold mine. Me and make Brad worth money. Brad does too much. Brad needs somebody. Brad is going to stop saying to. Brad is going to stop faking. Brad is going to go out and get a set of twins. One named Kate and one named Lynn. Wait a minute. This just in. Brad just said. Brad is lazy. Brad is just going to get one girl named Kate Lynn. Hear what I am saying. Like, Brad is baby's first word. The best we all heard. No matter what, Brad can't lose. Brad has decisions to make. Brad is thinking, relaxing. Now Brad is having a snooze. Brad has sleep to catch up to. Brad has power naps. Brad did. Brad just woke up overloaded with energy. Brad is about to collapse. Brad is running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Unlucky to have survived. The blade should have been sharper. Maybe another day. Brad has made Brad's mind up. It's okay. Only good things happen, and they want to stay where they remain. Witches on Brad's brain, ready to cast spells based on the words Brad is saying, which are answers from God to prayers. Brad is praying. Brad is in Brad's own league. The rest are just playing T-ball, placing ideas on top of their heads and letting others hit them off. The smart use baseball bats, the dumb use golf clubs, and it all gets weirder and crazier than that. Everybody thinks Brad is a quack. Brad gave it to me, and now I want to throw it back. This shit is whack. They complain about nothing and ignore all the facts and would be proud to see Brad buried beneath the earth so deep. Only say Tin could hear Brad singing a verse that will raise Brad back up with say Tin beside Brad, ready to take all those people on their final ride in the back of a hearse to live a life much worse than the one they were living. At first, Brad has one hand of the Grim Reaper constantly on Brad's shoulder for comfort, and the other hand in front of Brad with his sickle ready to come down in the middle of anybody who crosses Brad's path. Feel the wrath of God, say Tin, and a battle axe all at once while Brad is out to lunch, letting some French fries. Feel the crunch and washing it all down with a punch. Brad can make it on a hunch. Comma 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 just because we are always dying doesn't mean we have to act like it all the time. So stop whining. Brad writes to the beat of Brad's own armpits. Brad can go outside the lines and on both sides of the tracks and relax. Brad is good. Brad is the best. Brad is forever and always separated from the rest. Brad is just. Brad is going to give up. Wait a minute. No. Brad is not. Wait another minute. Yes. Brad is confused. Brad holds on to the handle of a noose to hold Brad up and keep from getting too loose. What's the use? Brad is going to let go. Don't worry. It is a ruse put on by people who want Brad to hear more booze. Brad is filled with fury. Brad blew a fuse. Brad's vision is blurry. Brad grew up with drugs, slugs, and sluts. That is why Brad wants to marry me. Brad's decisions are clear. Whatever they are, Brad wants to see people in a better way. Be like, hello, wave, and say something like, how is your day? Brad's throat is in a rope, and Brad is hanging out over the edge of a ledge with Brad's fingertips as people watch and hope Brad falls, but not to Brad's death. They hope Brad survives and ends up in a hospital bed, suffering until Brad is moved out and into a hospice bed, until Brad is moved out and into Brad's final resting place. Instead, Brad won't choke. It was all just a joke. Brad pulls Brad's self up and continues walking along an unknown road as the onlookers go home, leaving Brad all alone, pretending. Welcome back to reality. It is like that. If you have nowhere, you have to be patient, learn, and develop from good thoughts so you can maybe grow up and into somebody like Brad and me. Follow the glow. You will see from within, from living honestly with yourself. Then go out and spread the joy of progressive mental health to everybody else. That is how Brad and me took over the world modestly. It starts young. Don't eat the apple like Adam and Eve. Step into the kingdom. Have plenty with no need for greed or to deceive. Me and Brad will be waiting. Let's get together and rap. Wait a minute. Brad and me would just put on a show and make some cash. If Brad and me wanted to do that. Wait a minute. Sounds like a plan. Brad needs to make a living fast. It is Saturday. Just another. It doesn't matter day. To Brad and me. Anyway. Time for change. Forward, not back. Brad and me want to improve, not break down and fall through the cracks. There is no reason for that. Me and Brad are the B-E-S-T. Brad and me, the best there could be. Me and Brad are assured victory. The highest you will ever reach is when you are trying to bring down Brad and me. The leaves on the trees are pretty indeed. Add the sun, birds, bees, clouds, and a breeze, and it is a perfect day for a hanging. Brad and me would give you a money back guarantee if you are not satisfied with what Brad and I write. But Brad and me are asking for no fee, except Brad and me speak truth, free, and gladly. We will give you back what you are worth, instead, more than Brad and me think you are worth it. Some things you just can't help. Brad and me, we are one of them. Without us, what's meaningful and deep? Like a dick in a pussy, or like guck in a clogged sink. Brad has such a big dick. When I ride it, I pretend I am a witch, casting spells while riding a broomstick. Brad faces the music. Brad writes the music and the lyrics to it. The sun might shine tomorrow, but Brad might not. So, Brad doesn't waste time being foolish like this. It was just a thought. When it comes to Brad, shine on, no matter what. No shine. Brad is useless from your point of view. When it comes to Brad, who is this? Is Brad and me. The reason Brad exists is complicated. Brad is over loved and over hated by the people, the real stars of the freak show. Watching Brad trying to be normal. You and Brad are nowhere near equal. Peep, pal. Brad is incredible. You're not even close to being worthy of a family or a home. Brad is. Ask a girl. Brad is incredible. You are uncredible. Brad leaves you like you had a bucket of slime or paint emptied over your head like this from someone not worth shit. Payback is a bitch. Kiss somebody else is ass. Brad and me will still be rich and full of goodness. Brad is cool, not cruel. Me too, but not you. Ah, chew. Excuse me, I have the flu because of all the stuff you do. It makes Brad sick and makes Brad feel a lot less true. With Brad, it is peek-a-cheer. With most others, it is peek-a-boo. Brad is big, always, because Brad has no home to go to, and Brad doesn't just survive, Brad thrives. Brad started playing Brad's own game. Brad created because Brad hated feeling lame. Now, Brad is in Brad's own Hall of Fame, putting people to shame and taking all the blame. Brad has a book, and Brad has to fill the pages up. The lines are looking at Brad like Brad is about to deal them their favorite drug.